Hi, I like using bad loadouts. If you watched my Gas Passer video, which you shouldn't by the way, it's a real piece of work, then you know that I often wax poetic about weapons and playstyles that are far off the beaten path. I enjoy TF2 the most when I'm pushing myself both mechanically and ideologically to do something different. So I'm making this series, Unoptimized Gaming, to explore and explain the weird loadouts that I like to use. Here's my scout loadout of the hour. The shortstop, the Mad Milk, and the Sun on a Stick. Yes, really, this is what I've been using. I'm going to take a look at each weapon individually and then explain how they fit together into a single cohesive playstyle. The shortstop. So it seems to me that in recent years, the TF2 community has warmed up to the shortstop. It's not really considered a bad weapon anymore. Nevertheless, I feel it's a strange scout weapon that quite significantly changes the way you play the game. So it's time for everyone's favorite part of every TF2 video, the obligatory stat block. Actually, the stat block says so very little. I'll just share what the TF2 wiki has to say. The shortstop fires only 4 pellets compared to the scattergun's 10. The base damage of each scattergun pellet is 6, while the shortstop is rocking a whole 12. Lastly, the shortstop boasts a faster fire rate and reloads its entire clip at once. Oh, and you can shove people. The shortstop changes the way that the scout interacts with the battlefield. The default scout playstyle that works for every other primary weapon is going for meat shots. A meat shot is what all scouts dream of. It's a close-range, incredibly high-damage shot that leaves heavies worried, soldiers half dead, and any other class one shot away from death. The basic gameplay loop of Scout revolves around these up-close and personal shots. You flank around the enemy team, find an isolated target, get in as close as you dare, closer than you dare, and pull the trigger. At this point, you have a choice to make. Do you stay so fretfully close to your quarry, guaranteeing that your next shot will get the kill? Or do you start your retreat, stay out of potentially fatal melee range, and hope that your next shot, or two, can finish the job? If you make it out alive, you circle to health and ammo packs and pick your next target to go in on. The shortstop cannot meat shot. It can do incredibly high damage at close range, but the weapon does not benefit from damage ramp up the way that all other scout weapons do. 72 is the highest damage a non-critical shot can deal. 2 max damage shots aren't enough to kill a medic. Sure, he'll be left with 6 health, but that's not dead. There's plenty of time for him or his team to retaliate against you, potentially sending you back to spawn. With its smaller clip size and lower damage per shot, the shortstop does not fit into the typical scout gameplay style. You don't have the burst damage to take 1v1s the same way a stock scout does. So what do I like about the shortstop? Honestly, I like it because it gives me an advantage in scout duels. I am not the best at scout, which is probably why I play him as more of a support class than anything else. Whenever I'd face off with the enemy scout, I'd always lose. So how does doing less damage help me win against better players? Well, it's range. The shortstop does less damage than the scattergun up close, but more from medium ranges. So whenever I'd embarrass myself against better scout players, or sometimes against the enemy NG, but let's skip over that, shall we? I'd equip the shortstop. By keeping a medium distance between myself and the enemy scout and continually peppering them with shots, I'd end up winning. This is a great time to talk about the perception issue I see in conversations surrounding the shortstop. Whenever I see people discount the shortstop, it's because it only deals 30 to 40 damage per shot at the range it's supposed to excel in. Absolutely, compared to the fact that the scattergun deals upwards of 100 damage in its ideal range, the shortstop looks like it falls short. But even 30 damage isn't meaningless, especially with the gun's fast fire rate. A full clip, assuming you average 35 damage a shot, deals 140 damage total. That's enough to kill a light class. And with the shortstop's relatively quick reload speed, you're ready to deal another 140 damage in under 2 seconds. So yes, under ideal circumstances, the shortstop pales in raw damage numbers compared to other scatterguns. but the shortstop deals meaningful and reliable damage over time, all while keeping you at a comfortable distance from the fight. The shortstop, I find, works far better peppering the enemy team on the front lines. When you don't have to get close to deal meaningful damage, the scout becomes an interesting front lines class. His low health makes it hard to take many hits, but if you pay attention to who your team is shooting at, you can finish off plenty of wounded enemies. So I was going to jump right into talking about the shove here, but first I wanted to mention the one downside actually listed on the shortstop stats: a 20% increase in pushback from all sources. I overlooked this stat in writing the script for this video because it's underwhelming in game. It rarely makes a difference, and in the few circumstances in which it does, it's generally a good thing. If you know how to make the most of knockback and use it to your advantage, the extra push force can get you out of bad situations. Here's a clip where I ride the knockback from a Force of Nature scout all the way back to spawn. And in this clip, introducing my segment about the shove mechanic, you can see me get knocked all the way up to this ledge where I promptly ruined the sniper's day. And now the shove. I can't make heads or tails of the shove. It's hard to land, makes you incredibly vulnerable, and it doesn't push enemies very far at all. There are a few niche uses, like pushing enemies into map hazards or out of cover, but that's about it. The closest thing I have to a cogent use case for the thing is in denying Ubers, but even that's a hard argument to make. If you're playing on the front lines anyway, you'll at least be in position to shove an Uber player back. You'll wear a second off the Uber at best, and likely die in the process. I'm sure there are times when that's a fair trade to make. The Mad Milk is actually a part of the same item set as the shortstop, that being the special delivery set. With the Holy Mackerel, which... sure? Yeah, I guess you can deliver milk and fish. This set made more sense back when the shortstop offered bonus healing while deployed. This 20% increase in healing from all sources paired very nicely with the healing granted by damaging enemies covered in Mad Milk. Now, the Meet Your Match update replaced the bonus healing with the shove, so the set is kinda staying together for the kids at this point. Divorce humor aside, the Mad Milk is a wonderful secondary weapon in its own right. Any enemy hit by the Mad Milk splash radius will be coated in milk. Allies will heal 60% of all damage dealt to enemies coated in milk. The Mad Milk itself will recharge in 20 seconds. Additionally, the Mad Milk can be used to extinguish yourself or any ally who is currently burning. That act of charity will reduce the cooldown on your next Mad Milk by 4 seconds, so that's cool. And hey, that's it. Nice and simple. What a relief. Offensively, the Mad Milk can be used in two ways: selfishly and partially selfishly. You can use the Mad Milk in a 1v1 to give yourself a huge advantage. As long as you can hit your shots, you'll heal back a significant portion of any damage you take. Now, I'd argue that this isn't the highest potential of the milk, but when your health is low, you gotta do what you gotta do. The Pretty Boy's Pocket Pistol, another secondary weapon, heals you when you land shots, and is a far better option for self-sustain. It has no cooldown, and is also, you know, a gun. Mad Milk shines in its ability to turn a team fight. If you can coat a large group of enemies in milk, or even one high-value target, your entire team is greatly advantaged. I mean, I don't think I need to explain why basically free healing for your whole team gives them an edge, right? Throwing the Mad Milk at enemies is always partially selfish. It's there to benefit you firstly and foremostly, and you should always use it when you serve to benefit from it. It just so happens that your whole team is benefiting from it too. The only real selfless use of the Mad Milk is to extinguish a teammate. Even with the 20% cooldown reduction on extinguishing an ally, you're still without a powerful tool for 16 seconds. You're sacrificing the ability to extinguish yourself, or to heal yourself or your team, to put out a player. It's a hard sell, unless you have some other way to mitigate afterburn. The Sun on a Stick is a melee weapon for the Scout. It deals 25% less damage than Scout's Bat, but will hit any burning target with a guaranteed critical hit. All things considered, that's a 79 damage hit on a burning player, and with how fast the Scout's melee swing speed is, getting a second swing off isn't much of an issue. The Sun on a Stick also grants a 25% resistance to all fire damage while active. While it won't keep you alive sitting in a pyro's direct line of fire, get it? It will absolutely help you survive Afterburn. Or, at the very least, help you get to a health pack, medic, or friendly pyro before you die. The crits on Burning Player's attribute is fun for sure, but it's situational at best. I mean, it's incredibly satisfying to pull off a kill with it, but unless you're staying close to your team and would be fighting on the front lines, a lone roamer scout will rarely get a chance to pull it off. Alright, enough being coy. I love the way these weapons synergize with each other. The loadout encourages a scout playstyle that is far closer to support than it is to offense. You trade incredible assassination potential for the ability to deal out consistent damage, and whatever small amount of extra survivability you can eke out from the Mad Milk's healing and the Sun on a Stick's resistance. Being able to pull out the Sun on a Stick to mitigate Afterburn helps to save your Mad Milk for teammates that need it, or to help your team win a fight. You're able to deter enemy scouts with your superior effective range, and dishing out 50 damage shots from the front lines puts a hell of a lot of pressure on the enemy team. Hanging out on the front lines also helps you keep an eye on friendly pyros, and gives you the best chance to make full use of the Sun on a Stick. It might be worth mentioning that a critical hit with the Sun on a Stick is actually more damage than a point-blank shot with a shortstop, so unlike when paired with a scattergun, it's technically useful here. I will admit again, I am not a good scout player. I'm sure there's a reason why most scouts use the scattergun and not the shortstop. You're probably better off using the scattergun, Pretty Boy's pocket pistol, and I don't know, the Rap Assassin or something. But this loadout works, and turns the scout into a different kind of class that I can't get enough of. Lastly, the shortstop boop. The basic game. It just so happens that your whole team is bet, and whatever small amount of extras or to help your